Council.
Let me see. 204 today?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. I don't see that.
Welcome. This is a meeting of the Common Council Capitol Hills Golf Course Subcommittee. My name is Mike O'Brien. I'm the chair of it. Present also at this meeting are council members Jack Flynn, Tom Howie. Also present are our staff, Danielle Gillespie and J.R. Picardo. And also from Rec Department is Commissioner Jonathan Jones. And Jonathan, who's the, I should remember his name.
Justin Atlas.
Okay. And also Frank Cioli from DGS, and council members Alfredo Ballerin and Kathy Fahey are also joining us. And
did you say Sergio, Commissioner Sergio?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I missed the conference room there. Sergio, is Joe Gleebelhouse in there too? Or is it just Sergio? Sergio?
Yes, I'm present, and also with me is Joseph Gablehouse.
Okay. And this is a continuation of the meeting that we had back on September 28th. And if I can just recall some of the highlights of that meeting, I believe there was a discussion about there's going to be an authorization in the budget of approximately $40,000 to do a study. And Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you referred to a company named Scantex that has expertise in sports fields, although you're going to put out an RFP, so they may or may not be the ones. But it would be a study with stakeholders, something like was done for Lincoln Park. And Sergio mentioned that the 2021 golf course budget looks different from the previous budget. As he pointed out at the last meeting, it is a golf course within a park, and there's at least 200 acres other than golf course use at that site. Mm-hmm. And the income revenues from last season, even though it got off to a slow COVID start, kind of recovered. So the expectation is this coming year would be, normally I believe we project a little over $1 million. So correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no reason not to expect that we'll get approximately those golf revenues. And there was also a question raised at the last meeting. The June 2020 resolution talked about maybe the creation of a legal entity. And then there was some talk, and I think Alfredo brought this up, maybe we need a legal entity to receive sponsorships, because a lot of golf courses have plaques on every single fairway noting sponsorships. And then just from my notes, I use the golf course regularly for dog walking and for sleigh riding with my grandkids. And also I noticed that this year you bought equipment to groom the cross-country ski trails, and they've done a nice job of that. And I would say the park is getting a lot of use with sleigh riders, cross-country skiers, dog walkers, and probably some other snowshoers. So it is true that it is a park as well as a golf course. So I will, that's all I had to say just by way of introduction. And I'll leave it up to Jonathan and to Sergio to fill us in as to what's been going on.
Yeah, Commissioner Panunzi, I'll let you start and I'll fill in afterwards.
Yes, thank you. Since we last met, Recreation, DGS met together, and we made some progress. Number one, as Committeeman O'Brien has mentioned, we don't expect any surprises this year without meeting our object goal, which is to $1 million to cover the cost. We might be doing a little bit better this year, depending on the weather. Again, this is a very weather-oriented thing, but we don't expect any problems in opening up the golf course as we normally would this season, which is, I think it's in April. So Last year, we had a problem conforming with the COVID, and we had a problem with staffing. This year, we don't expect that. We have in place some very robust COVID things that might be even better. Actually, if everything goes all right, we expect to exceed our expectation of the money that we're supposed to get. Again, this is all weather things. The other thing that we've done since our last meeting is we are ready to advertise for our superintendent. As everybody knows, our superintendent is retiring after 20 years. We expect that official form to be in sometimes in late April. So it will help us open up the golf course, and then, but hopefully between now and then, we would have someone in the interim that could work with him, alongside with him, learn the golf course. That advertisement is going, I believe, in the next couple of weeks. And then we advertising through local, we advertising through also the Golf Superintendent Association of New York. So we expect to get some good fielders with that. Then the last thing that we did is we put out an RFP. The RFP is out, and the RFP is concentrated in 4 areas. One is the potential site location. What can we do with that location? And this is soliciting a firm to answer these 4 questions. And then eventually hire a landscaping engineering firm. Hopefully the same one that gave us the RFP. Potential site location for what fields can we squeeze in there? The second objective is site constraints. Are there any deed restrictions? There's something that we cannot be allowed to be there because of deed restriction. We understand that we hear rumors that in the farm area, there's a deed restriction that has to be kept as a farm. Well, this study, this RFP will put that in the forefront and say, what other restriction can there possibly be? And actually officially name those restrictions. The third thing is a site layout. Give us a brief overall site layout. What can we fit? Where can we fit it? And then evaluate site access. We have to talk about traffic studies. We have to talk about different scenarios that we now bring extra people to the golf course, Capitol Hill. So that RFP is out. Is expected to return to us through the engineering office on March 18th. At that time, Recreation, DGS, and Engineering will evaluate the prospective companies, and will announce who we select as a prospective company. And then we would have a scheduled kickoff meeting of April 6th to do a more in-depth study of once we finalize what Recreation needs for that complex. So we have some very, very good progress. As directed by the council, we are moving forward, and this is just, I know it's preliminary, but this is the process that we have to take. And I'm open to any questions.
Well, I was thinking, and I'll get the consensus of the folks here. I know there were a number of public comments that came in. Do we want to hear those first and then build our discussion after that, or?
I received them. I received them as well. The corporate counsel sent it to me. I cannot answer any of those questions until this RFP is done. Some of those questions are about deed restrictions. I don't know. We have to wait for the RFP. I mean, we can read them for the record and put them on, but all those constituents' requests and apprehensions cannot be answered until the RFP comes out.
Okay.
So it's up to you. I'll leave that up to you.
Well, Jonathan, do you want to go next? And then maybe JR and Danielle can give us an idea of how long you think it will take to read the comments.
Yeah, I'll just really quickly, in terms of recreation, a lot of what we would need was built into this RFP. So we support that RFP, particularly around the size of fields, where those fields will be located. I did read some of the comments about traffic in particular. Our approach would be seasonal, of course, but as Commissioner Panunzio said, the RFP will give us the due diligence and I think our best step forward on how we can approach this, if at all.
Okay. Do the folks want to hear the comments now and then discuss what we think? Okay.
Do you want me to kick it off? I can kick it off, JR. Awesome. First comment that I'll share is from Charlene Schaefer, who is Albany, New York resident. Her comment reads as follows. I have been an Albany resident since 1970 and have been walking the golf course almost daily for 20 years. These are my personal thoughts concerning the Capitol Hills golf course, not knowing what direction the committee is heading. 1, a representative from Albany Normanskill Neighborhood Association should be a member of this committee as it affects our neighborhood. 2, the golf course maintenance men did a great job with the signage and grooming of the cross-country ski trails, only to have the dog walkers post hole and ruin the trails. 3, the mini LPGA tournament held this summer went well, thus proving that events can be held during COVID. More events should be planned as they bring in money and interest. 4, Roger Martell lives in our neighborhood and has been very generous, allowing the neighborhood association use of the facility and providing fresh water to the dogs. This space should not be opened up for bid to a non-neighborhood business. 5, the neighbors do not want a soccer complex. 6, excuse me. Scott has done an excellent job with the golf course these past years. The memorial plaques have been cleaned of dog poop and reset. New trees have been planted. 7, the golf pro should schedule more tournaments and events. 8, unfortunately, the mayor's delay in opening the course this year to golf forced many leagues to go elsewhere to play. They may not come back next year. Much income was lost. The decision not to allow carts was stupid, as the carts have already been rented and paid for. More money lost. 9, the LPGA brings positive press to the city. Women from all over the world come to Albany. 10, signage and post on social media should be done to include rules to keep dogs off greens and sand traps. These should also include signage to keep dog walkers from holing the cross-country trails. This past June, teens were camping out and playing lacrosse on the streets. 11, increased signage for Whalen's Way and Stevens Farm. 12, exploring use of the land between Stevens Farm and the top of the course. 13, Scott and his crew do a great job with the course. I am not sure that DGS or Parks and Recreation can accomplish this. The dog parks are in terrible shape, if this is an example. Next, 14, the town of Bethlehem does not allow MW to use their park or dog park. Why should those residents use Albany's golf course to have their dog poop? The Henry Hudson boat launch had signage for residents' use only. The launch was paid for by state money, $80K, and the signage removed. 15, a non-resident park use fee could be charged for non-resident use on Saturdays and Sundays when golf course is not in use, thus bringing in money. I counted cars one Sunday and 60% of the cars had stickers or decals from the town of Bethlehem. Capitol Hills is a jewel and should be kept this way. The mayor made a big mistake not allowing the course to open while the other courses were profiting from this mistake. And JR is going to take the next comment.
This comment is from Sarah Lewis Belcher, 1000 New Scotland Road. As noted in the the September 28th, 2020 meeting of the subcommittee, it must first be determined whether the property is subject to any restrictions, such as being required to be left forever wild and or enjoyed for public recreation. Has the title been examined? And if so, are there any restrictions? Please provide the underlying title documents to the public once the search is done. Golf course and areas around within it are currently enjoyed by not only a strong contingent of golfers, but also by countless walkers and runners, winter sports enthusiasts, and nature lovers. If the property isn't restricted from development by delimitation, construction structures and access ways for organized activities such as soccer ball fields, swimming pools, and the like would eliminate the ability to use it as it is currently enjoyed by so many. There's simply no other place, much less one that is so accessible in not only the city, but the broader region. And that compares to Capitol Hill's property for being outdoors and enjoying nature. The property is also home to a myriad of plants and animals that coexist with the current uses. Developing the land would forever destroy their habitats. The impacts on the ecosystem and its flora and fauna of any proposal to build structures, roads, and/or parking lots, cutted wooded areas, dig or otherwise disturb or alter tracts of earth should be thoroughly studied before decisions are made. The impetus for examining the uses of the Capitol Hills property seems to be to monetize this resource. Rather than trying to use the property for new recreational outlets that will require large investments of capital and harm the environment, the focus should be on maximizing income from existing uses. Options could be to further increase greens and cart rental fees, sell daily, monthly, seasonal passes for walkers and others to use the grounds, improve and expand the existing trail system to attract more people and or bring the old course back to add another 9 holes and the income associated therewith. In talking with the people who walk the course on a regular basis, every single one has said they would be willing to pay to preserve and continue using it as is. If development alternatives must be explored, a detailed cost-benefit study should be completed to examine whether there should actually is a need for proposed facilities, parentheses, i.e., why would they be used, question mark, and what income could be generated from them. This should then be compared to the cost, both in dollars and lost natural areas of constructing, maintaining, and operating any facilities. The current use of people walking the course and other areas requires minimal investment, but now and over time, but has the potential to bring in significant revenue if people are charged the fee. This property is a one-of-a-kind gem. It's a unique natural place to exercise and seek solace that is unparalleled anywhere else in the city and surrounding areas. Representatives of the cross-country ski group that managed the trails and ski rental shop a few years ago advised it was one of only a handful of locations in the United States that offer year-round outdoor recreation on such a large scale. The city is truly fortunate to have this resource in its current condition. I encourage every member of the committee, if you haven't done so already, to get out to the Capitol Hills property and simply walk or sit and enjoy anywhere and everywhere during the day or night to see, feel, and hear what a special place this is in its current state. It would be a devastating loss to the city as well as its current and future residents if this area were destroyed by building fields, paving it over for parking/roads, installing lights for fields, or otherwise decimating its irreplaceable natural beauty.
You're muted.
You're muted.
That's a novice mistake. I had a rookie error. Sorry about that. The next comment is from Janice Gavin and reads as such. This is in regard to a proposal to place recreational facilities on the property of the Capitol Hills, including what I understand would include a swimming pool and sports fields. While we all value these types of facilities in our city, I am deeply concerned about this proposal. As you know, most of the course is landlocked and not easily accessible from existing parking lots, except for a tennis court that is adjacent to Martell's. There's already much traffic in this area for most of the year, and adding facility to this area would cause traffic that would be detrimental to the golf course, the safety of people who use the golf course, and the residents who live nearby. Any potential development of a field that is adjacent to the course and Hartman Road Dog Park is also deeply concerning. There is a 1-lane roadway between the park and the course maintenance facility that is accessible from Hartman Road, already very narrow, and adjoins New Scotland Road residences. There is a deep concern that adding any facilities in this area would cause traffic that would be detrimental to the safety of people and dogs, as well as significant noise, including in the New Scotland Road homeowners' backyards. There is also a community gardens area that adjoins the dog park. As it is now, traffic is occasionally heavy at the dog park and parking is at a premium, especially when the gardens are busy. There is also a city swimming pool at the Corrections Academy property nearby. As a city resident, homeowner, and taxpayer who owns a dog who regularly uses the Hartman Road Dog Park, placing these facilities in this area would be detrimental to the quiet residential neighborhood that makes so many of us happy to call on the 8th Ward home. Please reconsider this plan. Thank you, Janice Gavin.
Are there any other comments that we received in?
We have another comment from Paula Benjamin of Euclid Avenue, and her comment reads this way. I sent the email below in mid-January and never received a response. I hope the Common Council can address the concerns noted below. At the very least, use the opportunity to develop a long-term plan for dealing with dogs and issues relating to pet waste, as well as unruly, unlicensed dogs using city facilities. I am firmly opposed to city tax dollars being used to distribute doggy poop bags at this location. I would say that the majority of people using the Capitol Hills golf course during the winter are not city residents. Why am I sponsoring their lack of responsibility? There should be clear signage regarding poop cleanup, leashes, and owner responsibility. The expense of these visitors should not fall on the city, and I, as a multiple property taxpayer, should not have to clean dog poop off my snowshoes. Also, any city website describing the facilities as Capitol Hills should not claim that it is a dog park. The city has specific dog parks. Capitol Hills is not one of them, yet city websites refer to Capitol Hills as a place where dogs can run free. Please update websites. There is a lot of confusing information, including poorly written signage at the golf course.
Do we have, and approximately how many more comments do we have?
That looks like about it.
Okay.
The council member Hoey has his hand raised.
Okay, Tom.
Yeah, I didn't know if you're going to open it up to comments for the
yes.
council members.
Yeah.
You know, Mike, I kind of slipped because of the other legislation I was working on. I'd like, you know, I didn't have a chance to let people know that we were going to talk. You know, I should have known, but I didn't. But I can guarantee you I can get 40 or 50 written comments sent in. You know, I'm kind of shocked hearing some of the comments. This is city-owned property. It's not just 8th Ward property. The 8th Ward can't just become its own city. Now, years ago, I worked with Joe Sullivan to protect that golf course from being developed. They were going to put houses and everything up. And, you know, this is a recreational facility. And, you know, I understand people's concerns and stuff, but, you know, I've been accused of being a NIMBY because I'm worried about traffic and big developments going up in residential areas. But what we're talking about is parkland where, and especially as most of you know, soccer is dear to me. Even though I never played it as a child, I played baseball and basketball. But, you know, I see the value. I see what other towns do to take care of their young people by having decent soccer facilities. Football and also lacrosse can be played on these fields. So while I understand some of the concerns, I don't foresee us having lights, having games at night. You know, soccer and lacrosse and most of these sports are done during spring, summer, fall. They're not done in the wintertime. And, you know, I'll leave it at that. But I would like to talk about the last comment about the dog park. Maybe we should think about, there is a dog park run on the golf course on the edge by the Hartman Gardens, which I used to have a couple of plots on years ago, which I gave up. But there is the dog run there. Maybe we need to rename that so it doesn't get confused. I don't know what it's called right now, but that's something maybe you know, Sergio or Jonathan can tell us what it's referred to on city websites and stuff like that. Thank you.
I had a question for Sergio. You had raised the issue of some of the property may have deed restrictions. Now, is that the Stevens Farm? Because my understanding of the history of the Stevens Farm is that it was donated to the city. So maybe in the donation, and obviously it was a farm. So do we know if in the donation they put deed restrictions on about it has to be a farm forever, or? I assume that's kind of like what you're looking for.
That's one of them. That's one of them. And also there next to it, there's also a power line that goes through that might not have restrictions. We don't know that. And yeah, I just want to go on record, and maybe this would help everybody. This is not an RFP to build anything. There was a discussion. Yeah. Somebody mentioned, I think soccer, I think pool, I think this, but this is not what this is about. This is about having a company come in, what it's called a landscaping engineering company, to come in. We might want soccer fields there and they say you can't put them there. We might want to put X lacrosse field, and they might say you can't do this. So this is just, nothing has been said. We're not privatizing the courts. We're not building anything in the courts. This is just to introduce a company to come in, look at the property, and say to us, there are no deed restrictions, or yes, there are, whatever that might be, or this is what we can do with the property, this is what we can't do with the property. Nothing has been finalized. I mean, I read the comments before, but, and of course we're going to include the Norman Skill and the Neighborhood Association when that time comes. We're not at that point yet. We want to be transparent with everybody, and we want to tell everybody this was going to happen or what they like to see happen. But again, I want to go strictly on the record that this is not to build anything, to change anything, or to do anything other than hiring a landscaping engineering company to give us a guidance on where to do the next step.
So I'm assuming after a landscaping or your guidance company comes in, sometime at that point you will have an open meeting, neighborhood, anybody from throughout the city for that matter, who can come in and ask them questions or input. I know, like, Jonathan's doing a meeting tomorrow with our neighborhood association as an inputting meeting for playground equipment improvements. So I would assume once you have this company on board, maybe you can give us a time frame, we would have stakeholder input much. And maybe Jonathan can tell us, how did you do it with Lincoln Park?
Say that again. How do we do it with what? Say that last part again.
Lincoln Park.
Oh, with Lincoln Park, it was sort of just like you explained, right? There was, a discussion about the need for more amenities and equipment. And then Justin led that project. We went back out to the community with some pieces there, but this is a little different because, as the commissioner just mentioned, we have no plans. There's no maps, there's no drawing, this is exploratory to understand what we can provide and how much it will cost us to provide each of those elements, as well as how does this change traffic? How does this change positioning? How does this change water? How does this change the way DGS mows? How does it change what we program there? So again, I just want to echo the commissioner's point. This is exploratory to understand what we can and can't do. The Lincoln Park project was, we were going to do something and we just kind of needed to understand the scope of work and cost. And then we went back and forth with the community to understand what they wanted to see there in respect to our dollars allocated.
Mike, and then I don't know which part you're talking about, Jonathan, but the planning department, they conducted a land use, it was very extensive, inviting all the residents in to talk about what they'd like to see, a visioning of what they'd like to see in Lincoln Park. It was pretty involved, and there's different timelines for it and so on. And the proposal for the amphitheater is like, you know, one of the first things that's being done along those lines. Actually, Jonathan, down in the southern part where some of the recreational things, that's already been completed, correct?
Well, we're still working on that. We haven't had it completed yet. The pool and all that, we're still working on that. The basketball courts is going to be the first to start.
Oh, okay. So a lot involved there in planning that, and a lot of public involvement, just as Jonathan was saying.
So to answer your question, Committeeman O'Brien, yes. Once this is to select a landscape and engineering company. Once we have, I don't know, 5, 10, whatever we expect, we reviewed their prior projects. We reviewed their financial record. Obviously, we don't want a company. We review all that. Then we'll start the process of entering with planning, with recreation, with the community, and say, okay, this is what we are allowed to do. This is what we're not allowed to do. What do we want to see there? And yes, there will, after this process, we'll really start the nuts and bolts of the thing. But nothing has been finalized yet.
Now, have we had any feedback from our legal office about whether there are deed restrictions or whether we should somehow have a, you know, private legal entity to take donations for, you know, markers, advertising, you know, like other golf courses do, or for that matter, maybe something like the library has Friends of the Library, and that's a legal entity. Are we thinking of things like that, or can we get some? Maybe it's the next time we get together, we could get some suggestions from our legal department as to, well, you know, how that might help us.
That's a good idea, you know, but we're not at that point yet. We're not at that point yet.
Okay. So I note that Councilmember Johnson has joined us. Does any council member have any other questions?
Councilmember Flynn.
I have my hand up. 2 hands, Michael.
Okay.
I learned that. Thank you all. Thank you, Commissioner Nunziata, about the, this is just an exploratory. You know, I keep telling my residents this could be a year, 2, 3 years in the making. So I'm glad it's on the record that this is in early stages, you know. So to answer Tom Hoey's question, I plan on doing a resolution naming the dog park after Sue Watts. That's going to be coming up because Sue is very involved. So that's they're going to make an official name for that. That'll probably be in March or April. But I got some little questions that I just want to ask. The tennis court, and most of these questions I've gotten from constituents. The tennis court, somebody suggested making that into an ice rink during the wintertime. Right, Jonathan? Not a bad idea, because we really don't have one. Just a thought.
That's an interesting idea.
Because it can be used. Mm-hmm. So just let you know about that. Snowshoes and skis. Any possibility of maybe renting them? Because I go to the golf course all the time. I snowshoed it this weekend. A lot of people would probably say, you know, where's snowshoes? Is that a possibility in the air down the road for a little revenue?
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. One of the things that we're looking to do, and unfortunately we can't do it this year, is next year look at the Golf Pro contract, which expires, and we're looking to expand that. We might be able to include a portion of that. I don't know how it would affect, but a concession contract rather than have just a golf pro. Because again, as I stated before, this is a park and there's a golf course in it. So we want to have multi-reason on why we want to do. We might want to have a golf pro be there from April to November, and then there's a winter golf pro. I don't know, from November to April. That's something that we might look into expanding next year.
Right. That brings up my next point, which is a question about the concession, because people go there, have hot chocolate or whatever, sell something. Yeah, I'm sure that's in the marker. How about non-residential parking to get there? Is that talked about? Because I know you know, $5, $10 to go in for the non-residents? Is that talked about or been discussed, or?
I haven't brought it up, and I don't think legally you can do that. It is a public park. I don't know if you could restrict non-residential. Once we get some, you know, green acre money, I think we have to open it to everyone. But that's certainly something that we can bring up to legal and let them look at it.
Well, I know town of Bethlehem, they charge $30 for a permit. And I think that's why a lot of the Bethlehem people is they don't want to pay the $30, I guess, to come to their dog park. So I think that's why I'm not saying that's the reason, but I know $30 to Bethlehem folks.
I might be speaking out of context, but maybe permit is legal, but non-residential parking is not legal. You know what I'm saying? We need to ask people about that.
I agree. Next question is dogs. Do you know how many lawsuits are filed as a result of dogs in the golf course? Because I know a friend of mine got sued. Is it very limited if there's many lawsuits as a result of dogs suing each other? Does anybody know that answer? No. I know there's a few every year. I didn't know if we had that on record, how many there are. It's funny because my friend of mine called me about another friend's dog that attacked his dog and went in front of Judge Kelly. So the superintendent, can you talk about the process? Did you say we're going out? Do they have to live in Albany? The reason why I live in Albany is I don't know how many people you can live in Albany that are qualified for that position. So
we put it in the. It's prefer. We can always ask for. We can always ask for a waiver. We put that in the job application, I guess, that as resolution so and so, we require people to live in town or move into town within 190 days. But that's prefer. But if no candidate has the license, there's several licenses that you have to have. Pesticide license, you have to have a minimum of 2-year golf or turf management. So we could always ask for a waiver. Our current superintendent does not live in town.
Okay. Next question, the fees. Are we going to keep the same fees as last year for the golf course? We are not scheduled for an increase this year. There is a small minimum increase next year that's projected. Okay. Okay, I think that's it for now. Thank you, Michael.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I have a question. Could you email Danielle or I'm asking Sergio to email to Danielle the RFP, and then she can just send it out to us, because I don't remember actually seeing it.
It's on the website, but I can certainly email it to you. It's on the website on the City of Albany /RFP, but I can certainly email it to you tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and then just you know, like parks that charge people from out of town. Most of the parks, and I know with my grandkids, I'm hitting parks all over the Capital District. Most of them I don't think do. Colony, Crossings Park, I go to that a lot. Don't go to Tower Cinta as much, but you know, Central Park and Schenectady. So that would be kind of interesting. And most golf courses, I do golf during the summer, although I usually golf the shorter courses. And you don't pay to park your car, you just pay to golf. And the ones I go to mostly are strictly golfing, you know. So I don't know, that would be interesting. Maybe this consultant would know what the trend is. Is it productive to charge to park if you don't live in the city, or isn't it?
I don't know. That's a good question to put to the engineer. See what other trends are happening in the Northeast. There might be no parking fee for a golfer because he's out there golfing, but there might be a golf. I don't know. That's a good question to pose to them.
Yeah, but I think I don't know how you would really. I don't know. To me, it would be a bear to enforce. unless Bethlehem found a way of doing it. That was one of the
Hey, Mike, all you do like they do with the golf tournaments, they just put somebody at the entrance there, like they do with the golf tournament. You pay some kid $15 an hour just to check. It's not, you know what I mean? Right there at the entrance. It's not that hard. It's whether it's legal or not.
Okay.
You can also use.
Certainly want to put anybody in a legal situation. It's a public park. I don't know if, I don't know. But maybe let's ask the consultant in other parks. Maybe concessionaire stand could charge a fee. I don't know. I don't have any answer for that.
Yeah, and does Martell have any? Does he have some exclusive arrangement that nobody could sell hot chocolate, or maybe he would? I don't know. Yeah, maybe we need our corp counsel to come in at one of the meetings and kind of handle some of the legal questions that have come up. So
also questions to the council, and then maybe have them attend.
Yeah. So where do you want to go from here?
It's very simple. It's dictated by the RFP. Okay. We expect the return of our RFP sometimes around March 18th or the 20th. So our meeting should be after that. And then, or maybe you won't even want to make it, after the 20th, after the 18th. That's when the RFPs come back. At that point, we will know how many prospective landscaping engineering company are interested.
Okay.
Mike, I have a question.
So is it too early to schedule anything, or do you want to just get?
We can do it now. I mean, we can schedule it in the next month, or but it's got to be.
That's probably too quick, isn't it? I mean, you're going to get the RFPs back, but you're going to want to look at them.
But
and probably talk to the individual.
I would say sometimes in April, and then at that meeting, I will have engineering answering those questions on the candidates that have applied, the candidates that were denied, and the candidates that were selected. I mean, this has got to be a recreation / DGS, but engineering is going to have to take the lead on it because they're going to know the qualification that some of these firms have.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike, I have a quick question.
Yeah, Zach.
Just a quick question about the trails. Is that done by a snowmobile with a plow? Just so I know, how do they do those?
That is done with a Joe. By us. It's done in-house.
It's done in-house with an ATV or a side-by-side with a drag. It's a sled that they drag along.
Because they did an excellent job. I just want to let you know, excellent job. And people say how well the trails look.
Yeah, and they do an excellent job of cleaning off the walking trails.
Yeah. So if you guys want to schedule a meeting for April,
I'm being told that the council has a number of meetings coming up in April. So let me ask our staffers, what's our availability for meeting suggestions? Danielle or JR?
Do you want a response now, or would you prefer we provide a response by tomorrow? Because then we'll have enough time to look at the calendar.
Oh yeah, tomorrow or even later in the week.
Well, don't forget that we have a scheduled meeting May 24th.
Oh, okay. I did forget that. So do you want to just
already? So maybe we'll keep it to the May 24th meeting.
Okay. Is everybody good with that? Tom, Kathy? Okay.
All right.
So it'll be May 24th.
That's our next scheduled meeting. So at that time, we'll have enough, hopefully, respondents.
Yeah. Yeah. And, actually, I'm glad we're getting comments. Obviously, some people are following us. And, if they want to, as a neighborhood, send in people to make comments, great. Or if they want to
Again, I can't stress it anymore. This is not a planning. This is
right.
This is just
exploratory.
A company to come in and do the survey and do the due diligence before anything happens.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it on our end. Jonathan, you have anything?
Okay,
I
we're going to see
have nothing
Jonathan.
further to add. Thank you all. And
we're going to see Jonathan up in our neighborhood on Wednesday.
That's correct. I'll be there Wednesday.
Mike, I got a real fast one. So if the RFP comes in and they say, yeah, you can do this, this, and this, what would be the plan to do it next year, next fiscal year?
The RFP is not going to say, do this and do that. The RFP is going to say, Company X has been selected to answer these 4 questions. That's what this RFP is about. It's selecting a landscaping engineering company to start the process. We're looking at, honestly, to be honest with you, in my experience, we're looking at 3 to 5 years down the road. Because by the time we get this all, I mean, that's 3 years is good. 5 years might be if we have a legal problem, but this is not going to happen overnight. There's going to have to be a couple of meetings in the neighborhood. There's going to be a couple of meetings with recreation about what are the needs of the community. You know, it might turn out a boxing ring might be the, I don't know. Those are things that all have to be ironed out. So this is not going to happen overnight. Not this year, definitely.
Well, that's what I want, to know, is it going to be, I mean, there is ways you can get things go faster. And what I'm looking at, Sergio, if there's stimulus money, ready to go, especially for community development, like what we're talking about, it would be a shame that the city of Albany would miss out on that. I understand all the planning. I work at the university. We put up buildings and stuff, and our buildings take 3 to 5 years. So I know what's involved. But I appreciate all the work that you're doing and Jonathan's doing, and Justin, thank you all.
So can we wrap it up?
I make a motion to close the meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor? With the idea, our next meeting is the 24th, and Sergio will keep us posted as to what he learns from the RFP and the responses.
Hold up.
Okay.
Good. Take care.
All in favor?
Good night.
Good night. Thank you to everybody.
Bonne nuit.